Today I'm taking a look at the Master Industrial Hydraulic Cap and Plug Kit. Okay, so that's nice. So they got a little insert in there to make sure nothing is going to jiggle around and fall out. That is a fairly heavy kit, but I'll try to lift it. You can kind of see on here, it does actually have what appears to be the dash number of these different plugs. You can see on the bottom we got our JIC, and on the top we've got our ORFS. We also have a chart on the back to let us know exactly what these are. So we got a dash 12, so that'd be a 12/16 or a 3/4, so that'd be good for a 3/4 inch internal pipe. Here we got a 16/16, so that would be a 1 inch. And if we unthread this guy, that has a very nice cut threads. We can see on there that is a JIC, so JIC is going to have a 37-degree taper, and we have the exact same thing there on the cap. You don't want to confuse that with an SAE 45, so an SAE 45 is going to have a 45-degree taper, and although you could potentially use this with a SAE 45 if you just need to cap it off, it is definitely not recommended for that. If you're going to use a 45, you want to use a 45 plug. But for high pressure hydraulic fittings, anything like that, especially with like agriculture equipment, anything we're going to be taking equipment off and adding equipment back on, JIC is going to be very common for that, and you do want to cap off those ends whenever you do it. So a very handy kit to have if you're doing any kind of agricultural work. So here is a dash 4, so that would be a 4/16 or a 1/4. These are all made out of steel. They are all zinc coated, so that's going to be good for corrosion resistance. And they have a nice thick head on there, so you don't have to worry about rounding that off as much. Everything on there looks clean and polished, which is important, so you're going to be able to make a good seal. We don't have to worry about leaks. And let's take a look at our ORFS. So ORFS is O-ring face seal. You can see that does have an O-ring in it. This is something that's going to happen very commonly if you ever used ORFS, so you know that those O-rings do pop out. Depending on the equipment you're working on, you can use some oil to kind of keep that stuck in there, but that is really up to you. You just want to make sure you're keeping that O-ring in place while you're tightening that up. So it's a little bit loose on the inside, and that's actually important because we don't want this thing to be spinning on that O-ring and tearing that up. There isn't really any identifier on there, but the fact of the matter is we got this nice case here, and this will not fit into a dash 12 slot. So another super easy way to actually find out what it is that you're working with. But we've also got this chart up here. This will tell us exactly what the dash number is. Here we can measure out the thread dimension. We can measure out the D, which appears to be the major diameter. The lowercase d is the minor diameter. Then we got the threads per inch. Then we have the cap size, so that is the size of the hex on the cap. And then we have the plug size, so that is the size of the hex on the plug. So anytime you're having a difficulty identifying what this is, that is a very handy chart to have. I do have to say, I really like having that little insert in there and just keep everything from jiggling around, especially if you're going to be throwing this guy around the back of a tool truck. That is a pretty sweet kit. So here I have a hydraulic cylinder. It has an O-ring face seal on both ends here on the top, and you can see we use some form of gasket right there to hold the O-rings on until we install it. Depending on your application, that may be a good thing or a bad thing, but for us that works. We do have good filtration on our hydraulic system. So we can just throw this guy on and lock that down. So in the event that we had a hose that had a leak in it, something like that, but we just needed to basically start the equipment so we can transport it, we could just cap that guy off, take the hose off, plug the other side, and then we'll be able to start the equipment even with the hydraulics running. As long as there is a path for that hydraulic fluid to go back, we won't have to worry about that. And let's just check for leaks. All right, and that did make compression, so that is good. So yeah, super useful kit. We're going to keep that guy around here just in case we need it. It's one of those things where it's definitely better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And if you're working on hydraulics, and chances are eventually you will need it. Overall, I'm very happy with that.